Hey everybody, this is Andrew Bensley, co-host of Community Notice Board podcast and a former guest at the Andy Social podcast. Just telling you guys to come check mine out, the Community Notice Board. Fuck, I can't do it.
There's not a gun to his head right now, I promise you. It seems like there is. But yeah, listen guys, we do a great podcast called Community Notice Board. We've had some great guests on in the past, Becky Lucas, Luke Heggie, and that's what I reckon. And James, what's the pod about?
It's about suburbs we grew up in. So we talk about the guest's local history with the place, must-see places that you have to visit, coming-of-age tales, and the hometown heroes that we just can't forget.
Yeah, so give it a listen on all podcast apps and all that sort of shit.
Hell yeah.
And yeah, thanks a lot.
See ya.
Hey, it's another episode of the Andy Social Podcast, and before we kick into this episode, come and join me on Patreon, patreon.com/Andy Dowling. There is a link in the notes, so you can go and click through and check it all out. But a massive thank you to the people that support me, my top-tier supporters in particular, Andrew from Perth, Mick G from Sydney, Ash from Deniliquin, Dan from Dapto, Rod from Rayleigh in North Carolina, Patrick from Canberra, Liam from Brisbane, Chris from Sydney, Brendo from Leeton, Tim from Canberra, James from Brisbane, Christian from Canberra, Steve from the Gold Coast, and Andrew from Sydney. Thank you so much, legends. These people are my top-tier supporters. These guys are carrying the weight of the Patreon community. They're just massive contributors and part of the wider community of absolute legends who are backing your mate Andy and his little old podcast, the Andy Social Podcast. So go over to patreon.com/Andy Dowling. We'd love to see ya. Hey, it's episode 282 of the Andy Social Podcast, and I've got another return guest. Now, it's not going to seem obvious when you look at the name, because you'll be scrolling through going, well, I haven't seen this guy's name pop up anywhere else. But I've got Hayden Douglas on the podcast. He's a comedian, a musician, just a really, really talented and hilarious guy. I've known him for so many years, and Hayden's actually been on the podcast previously on episode 130, where he was going under a different name, Douglas Harvey. So go back and have a listen to that chat, because it's an absolute cracker. Now, this one in particular with Hayden was recorded a little while ago, and I've resurfaced it because I think it's quite timely. VR is just exploding at the moment. If you haven't got a VR headset, man, get into it. I've got a Oculus Quest 2, and it is just so much fun. And what Hayden's been doing is creating a comedy world in virtual reality. And he's got this comedy club called Upload Comedy Club VR. It's available through AltSpace VR. And if you don't have a VR headset, you can actually watch it in 2D via the AltSpace website, so on like PC or Mac. So definitely go and check it out, and I will have links to all of this in the show notes. But this chat is just basically me getting super excited about virtual reality, and Hayden and I have got some ideas to do a podcast, and we've been back and forth about it. We haven't quite had it sort of eventuate just yet, because Hayden's just been so busy with this Upload Comedy Club, which has just exploded in popularity. It's just insane. I've been to one of these, and it's just so cool. It's just it's such a surreal and weird experience to be in, but it's so much fun. Sean Conway, who's been on the podcast previously as well, has also done some stand-up at Hayden's show. So definitely go and have a listen to my chat with Sean, and if you like Sean's humour, then you might bump into him at a virtual reality comedy show hosted by Hayden. The little description, I might just read out what the description is for Upload Comedy Club. It is, Upload Comedy Club is the gold standard in virtual reality, bringing the best comics from Australia, UK and USA into your living room. So he's got people from all over the world. The comedy shows run, I think it's twice a week, and I'll have links, of course, in the show notes over at andysocial.net and andydowling.net. I'll also put some links to some of Hayden's music. He's been going hard with a lot of his own music that he's been putting out over the past few years. He's got his podcast, the Hypermanic Noise podcast, which I don't think he's done any episodes recently, but I've been on there a few times, and it's a cracking podcast. Really amazing chat with Hayden on those episodes and this episode as well. So enough crapping on from me, because I'm just waffling now. Please enjoy this great chat with the man himself, Hayden Douglas.
I think that's what draws people to comedy. You have to have a clusterfuck of an existence that would, one, give you enough material to get on stage, but also make you deluded enough to do it in the first place.
Yeah.
It's not a healthy drive. Getting up with a band makes more sense to me. And I did that first, but fuck. Sometimes I wonder.
Yeah. I mean, the band thing for me, it was definitely like an ego thing. I think with like a lot of young guys, like you want to get the attention and get on stage and sort of just sort of let off some steam and try and get the eyes on you. And I think also, like, I know it was a bit different for you. You know, you were sort of up the front and didn't really sort of have a guitar or anything in front of you to begin with. But I think there's a bit of an image that you can attach, and you're not sort of just the solo person on stage for the most part.
No, it's a team.
Yeah, and I think comedy's sort of that next level where it's kind of like the public speaking thing, but there's an extra level of pressure where it's not just getting up and talking to people. You've got to put on a show. You got to entertain. You got to make people laugh. You know, so I don't know if I can do that.
It's kind of like, I don't know, it's like football versus MMA. You know, in football, you're going to get the shit beat out of you, but at least there's a team of people behind you. Whereas MMA, it's you, and then, you know, the heat's coming. And, you know, I think may have even said this to you before. It's one of those things where you never know if it's going to work till you do it, and then it can work 15 times and then it just doesn't, and you're like, well, okay, we've learned a lesson, and you just get better at minimizing how many times that happens. That's the ultimate game.
Oh man, it must just like develop the thickest skin on a lot of comedians, because it's not just, you know, I think a lot of people say that, you know, the whole public speaking thing's one of the biggest fears that people have, whatever the stereotypical fears that people traditionally have, like public speaking, getting in front of people is just like one of the worst things that could possibly happen to a person. But I think with comedy, I mean, obviously you got to deal with silence, but you got to deal with hecklers, and then you got to deal with any sort of criticism that you get from other people who are critiquing, because they know that you're trying to do something to get results. You're trying to get better as well. So, yeah, you'd have to just, I mean, either numb yourself with a fuck ton of drugs and whatever, or you just develop this really thick skin.
Yeah, you do, man. And the thing is, it's not the comedy that gets to you; it's the industry. And you know what that's like being in bands. And I think, honestly, I feel like comedy's worse. Like it's tough when you do the maths and you're in a venue and you're like, I know what you're charging for tickets. I know what you're paying me to perform. This is terrible maths. I don't like this. And, everyone's out to make a buck, and I understand that, but you can't do it at the expense of, our material is all we've got. And if you're making money off our material, we deserve to be compensated fairly well, and I'm not saying a grand a show, but fuck me dead. It's pretty rough.
Yeah. Do you think that, comedians do a similar disservice to what musicians do, where you'll get, like, in, especially local scenes, you get bands that put on $5 shows and just totally cheapens the act, and you go, come on, cunts, like, you're only going to get what you get by putting on a price like that, and until you start backing yourself and putting not a premium on yourself, but at least trying to sort of develop some form of value associated with your act. Is a similar sort of thing in comedy, or not really? Different dynamic altogether?
There is, but I think one of the things that kind of separates it a little bit is the open mic scene versus the pro show.
Yeah. So
an open mic is usually $5, because if you might get Tom Gleason there, but it might be something Tom Gleason wrote in the car on the way there.
Right.
So that's why it's a $5 show. If you pay $20 or $30 for a show, you want those. They're not running new material. That's when you're out there to kill and do your tight 20, 10, 5, whatever you book for. I think that's probably the main thing. But over east too, there's a big problem where Melbourne, especially when it comes to the comedy festival, it's hard to sell tickets because they do free shows all the time.
Yeah.
So they've devalued comedy. Everyone's like, well, fuck it, I get to see, Arj Barker might pop in. I saw him for free. Well, you should be paying to see him now, dickhead.
I was listening to Daniel Towns, his podcast. I've been going back and listening to like all the stuff, because he started in like 2013 or something like that, like way before I was even realizing what a podcast was. And majority of, I'm pretty sure all of the guests that he had on for like the 4 years that he did it were just all comedians, and most of them Aussies, a few international people. And it's totally fascinating listening to two comedians talk. And I'm obviously, like, there's all the popular American podcasts and all the comedians have got their podcasts, but I think to listen to Aussies talk about the scene and talk about how they get along and just the different criticisms, and there are some parallels where you can relate to it and go, oh yeah, you kind of have similar sort of challenges sort of in music as well. But, there was one thing that they were talking about, it might have been might have been some fringe festival or something like that over in the UK, and they've got like this free fringe or something, and they basically
Edinburgh,
yeah, and so you just hold out a bucket or something at the end of your set, and people just dump money in at the end of it. And part of me kind of likes the novelty of it, but another part of me scares it. Like, I go, oh, that's so bad. That's just the worst thing to do.
Again, that's kind of, so you've got your Edinburgh Fringe and you've got the free fringe. People go to the free fringe knowing that this could be some guy I've never heard of from Australia. But if we like it, we'll give them $5. And comics of my level usually do better off at the free fringe than they do the normal fringe.
Right. Okay. Just because I assume with the fringe, you're working out some sort of deal, and it'd be based off.
Yeah,
if you get paid at all.
Yeah, it's more of that, but also you have, if you're doing the free fringe, you might be doing a really tiny room that holds 20 people. If you get 10 people in there and they will give you £5, you've made £50. You can get through the day. It's kind of like an entryway into the festival that most people take.
Have you ever thought about doing that?
Yeah, I had a lot of plans, Andy, involving other countries and comedy and things, and fuck knows at this point. But that's why I'm doing comedy in VR. So
yeah, man. Yeah, fuck.
Yeah, that's weird.
Well, I mean, I've been slack and I haven't jumped in and seen one of the sets yet, but just from the videos you've been showing me and just like little clips of what it's like, it's so fucking surreal. It's the weirdest thing. And even just, for me, only just picking up a headset not too long ago and being still pretty green to the whole thing. It's another world.
Well, that's why I'm keen to work with you on this. Whatever, and I like the idea of discovering what it's going to be as we do it, because I'm not exactly a noob with VR, but I've been in it, I've fucked around in it. I'm kind of used to it now. Fucking stupid dog barking. We've got sirens, we've got dogs barking. This is Rivervale, Perth. What are we talking about? Sorry, I'm distracted by the crime.
We're setting up. Distracted by the crime.
Yeah. So we can, it's going to be fun because it'll be us, you kind of experiencing a lot of things for the first time. I'll be able to bring in a lot of things that I know will freak you out. And as we spoke about, we can do a podcast. We can be anywhere. It can be in front of a waterfall. We can be in a studio like the one that I've showed you already. It's whatever, and we can be side by side looking at each other's cartoon faces, and it oddly doesn't feel like we're not in the same room. It's weird.
Well, even a couple of times we've sort of caught up in VR world, which is ridiculous. It's the craziest thing because, and I keep forgetting, I am recording this and people are listening to this, but I feel like I'm just having a chat to you at the moment, but which I am, but you know what I mean. But it's like those first few seconds of, oh, hey, there's your avatar or whatever, I can see you. And then it's that disconnect. But then within, a few seconds or a couple of minutes, you forget that you're an avatar. Yep. It's just you.
Yep.
And then I'm standing there and then you're pointing at something and you're turning in one direction. Then, as you're turning away, your voice trails as well because it's directional. And so I'm turning and I'm trying to move with you, and then I'm fucking falling over, or the equivalent of falling over, just bouncing from one side of the room to the other, or teleporting to some fucking weird dimension and getting lost and trying to find my way back. But it's after a while, it's like being in the same, literally in the same room with somebody. And I think sort of after those couple of experiences, it's starting that the cogs are starting to turn, the pieces are starting to fall into place where I'm going, wow, this really is something really cool that I think not a lot of people are really sort of paying attention to at the moment.
Yeah, man. And I feel like people really don't understand the capabilities of VR. It's going to open up a lot of doors for bands. It's going to open up music videos. That's going to change the game. Even just socially, like you said, there's apps where I can log in and watch a movie with somebody else. So potentially you and I could watch a movie together. Well, my mum lives on the other side of the country. Fuck knows when I'm going to see her. If she got a headset, her and I could sit there and have a chat and watch a movie together. I think it's going to be really integrated into society a lot more. There's a lot of virtual workspaces and things coming into it. And there's a fucking wind chime going, Christ. it's one of those things that it's really going to develop over the next few years, and it's just going to blow up more and more. And in fact, I just kind of stumbled across VR as a thing. Comedy in VR. Just thinking, hey, I bought this thing. This is fun. I wonder if that's a thing, and it is. And we're still doing it.
That's so cool. Do you, like, I guess for anybody listening, and obviously we don't have a visual at the moment, but like walk us through what a comedy show looks like in VR, or what the experience is.
So for a user, you're at home. If you've got your VR headset, the good thing is if anyone's listening and they don't have a VR headset, you can actually get on Altspace on your computer and walk in and check out the show. It's a completely different experience. I mean, it's worth doing to have a look, I guess, but it's not the same. You'll walk in, you'll sort of pop up in a spawn point, and then you'll enter the venue like you would any other show. There's posters up. There's an anti-social podcast poster. There's a hypermanic noise podcast poster. We don't fuck around. You walk in, and then there's other people in there at home with their headsets on. They've all gone to see the show, and people chat at the start of the show. I walk in and I recognize people, which is absurd. I get recognized in VR for doing comedy if I just log in and go to some random world. It's fucking weird, man. But again, even as an audience member, once you're in there, you feel like you're in a comedy show. It's like and as a performer, I reckon it's about 80% the same as a normal gig.
Wow. And it's I think from what you told me in the past, it's sort of a similar sort of setup to what we're talking about with that free fringe sort of thing, where people can sling you a couple of bucks on PayPal or Venmo or whatever it might be, and sort of throw a tip or whatever if they're enjoying your set.
They can, and we're wanting to basically make the idea is to push for ticketed events, but unfortunately there's been so much comedy on there for free. Again, like what we're talking about, right? How are we going to convince people to pay when before it was optional? And leading up to Christmas, at the time we're recording this, all that sort of stuff is going to play into it. So I've had one guy, Steve Oates, I'll give him a shout out. He donated me $100 because he loves my stuff. And Steve is going to love that I'm shouting him out. He started doing comedy in VR. I was always wanted to do it. Came along and saw the guys that I initially was working with, Failed to Render. He saw their room and did a comedy course in there, and now he's doing stand-up. And that's awesome. That's
insane. Wanting to do stand-up and doing it in VR just to kick it off, and doing a course in VR. Wow. I have no time for comedy courses as a thing. That's one of my pet hates. That's on the list with ukuleles. But if it gets you writing, then whatever. But yeah, that to me, the comedy course thing could get fucked. Wow. I mean, it's just so weird. Like, even just the other examples you're saying about what VR is starting to do and what it can facilitate. No, it's not just games and sort of walking into these rooms and doing comedy stuff. I mean, it can be totally integrated into so many different facets of life. It's just, I mean, the first time I put the headset on, turned it on, and I'm just going through it's terrifying, but like, I was just doing the tutorial thing, which if you got like an Oculus, whatever the fuck I've got, the Quest 2, the tutorial on that's amazing. It's so cool. And I just, the first thought in my head is, I go, oh fuck, this is dangerous. Like, this is like, why? Like, I was taking the headset off and looking around my unit and just going, well, this is fucking boring. Like,
you should take the headset off and look around my unit. Yeah, man, you're right though. And there's a mini golf game, for example, and my girlfriend and I have played it from my house. I was at my house, she was at hers, and when we caught up next, it was like, I honestly feel like we went and played mini golf somewhere for an hour. And she said, "Yeah, you're not playing a game." And to your point, it is gonna. It sounds so stupid. Like, I sound like a fucking televangelist for VR, but it really is going to change the way people communicate with this COVID stuff going on with lockdowns. I've made really good friends in the States that are comedians through VR. and we perform together. And that's the craziest thing for me as a comic, is being able to perform to an audience that's 98% American. That's awesome.
It's good to get your chops up. Have you found that? I mean, it's been obviously without you guys over in Perth got lucky with all the COVID stuff as far as being able to sort of do shows. It's you sort of went through a brief sort of.
We are very lucky.
Yeah, but I would assume like the VR stuff probably helped maintain some of your chops. And have you seen yourself improve with your comedy?
Oh, tenfold. In the VR shows, when you're doing stand-up, if you would normally pause for a second, you've got to pause for another second just to give it that extra time if there's a bit of a delay.
Right.
Now, the thing about that is when I do real gigs now, I'm very patient and I know the laugh's coming and I don't get scared and speed up. The thing that's fucked in VR is you wait for that extra second and sometimes you keep waiting and you keep waiting and then you realize, oh no, that bombed. And now I've been dead here for many seconds after a bombing joke. But then you've got to build it up again and fix it. But aside from you're going to get tech glitches as you're going to do with this sort of stuff. But yeah, it's eerily similar. And I do a lot of crowd work in there. It's really increased my skill set, and it's not like fight. I would compare it, sparring to being in the ring. It's not the same, but it's getting your chops up for when you get on stage for the real fight.
I love that idea of being forced to have to wait for that momentary, like that little lag, but then using that to your advantage, on an actual stage in real life where that pause makes such a massive difference, and no doubt, like by just waiting a moment just to either catch your breath or let the crowd react to whatever you're saying. It also shows that you've got confidence as well. Like you're not motor mouth trying to speed through your set and trying to get to the next joke ASAP because you're stressed about being on stage or the reaction you're going to get from the crowd. It's sort of like, I'm confident. I know what I'm doing, and I'm just taking my time and I'm going with the flow.
Yeah, and it's weird. The more stage time you get, the less you care, but in the right way.
Yeah. Because
you think, well, now I've got more stage time, I've got more time to play. So I'm used to things not working because I'm doing so much time now. I'm trying a lot of new shit, and a lot of it doesn't work. And you learn how to roll with it too. You can turn a joke that bombs into a bit that works. Yeah.
Have you had any hecklers in VR?
They usually, oddly enough, the rooms that we're doing, we have people that can essentially virtual bouncers. They can just boot people out. I don't mind, but they just usually someone boots them out by the time I get to them because I'm fine with it. But usually it's just dickheads that are chatting and running amok in there, trying to be silly. They'll come in dressed as Mario or some bullshit and run around. Wow. I did 3 minutes of crowd work on Mario because in the crowd, Mario, Luigi, Princess Peach, and Wario all just appeared in the crowd, and you can't not acknowledge that.
Well, it reminds me of when we caught up the first time, and we were walking through a few different worlds, and you're showing me the what I think at one point was a theater, but the theater actual part was like outside or whatever. And those two other people came in and they sort of, walked around us and then out into the open area. And then one guy had a fucking sword or something. I can't remember what he had. And I sort of turned, I was looking at him and like from me, like a considerable distance away. And I go, look at that fucking guy. Look at old mate. He's got a sword. And he just turned around and then zoomed right up in our faces and just flashed the sword around and then zoomed back off. And I thought, oh man, he heard me. I was like, wow, it's like being out in public. I need to watch myself.
It's so funny. I don't even remember that.
I don't. Yeah. Well, you probably see
that's how insignificant it was to me.
Yeah. I think like just even walking through some of those places and realizing that they are public spaces. So there are random people that just sort of stop by. Like even when I was trying to work out how to meet up with you the first time, you said like one of the places like a campfire place or whatever. And I came in and then I saw someone off in the distance. And I'm like, oh, who's that? And I realized it was a stranger and I freaked out. I'm like, oh, don't get too close to them. Like, I don't want them to come near me. I don't want them to talk to me. And so I just like loitered around the campfire and just sort of hid in the corner somewhere until you rocked up. I was just like, what the fuck is going on? I've been sucked into this.
That's the thing. It's the same social. I find it weird too that you just aren't sort of hanging on the edge of the conversation like a weirdo trying to ingratiate yourself. It's the same stuff that plagues us in normal life.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you haven't, anyone listening, if you haven't tried VR, try it, because it is mind blowing, and even something as simple as watching Netflix on it or Amazon Prime is just, man.
Yeah.
I haven't got into the porn on it, because if I do, I know what I'm. It's just, yeah.
You're not coming back.
No. I'm not. It's too much. It's too overwhelming with the games. I can't handle that.
Oh man,
I'm an amateur.
I'm happy to play little baseball and temping bowling games and fishing games. I think that's going to be the extent of what I'm doing. But well, maybe a good thing to talk about, just trying to get people onto VR, because I've noticed. I mean, there's a term for it. I can't remember what it is, but like when you become interested in something or you buy something, then you start to see it everywhere. But before then, you never notice it.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so it's sort of like buying a car or something, or you got a white car and suddenly you see all these white cars everywhere. So I've noticed ever since like us talking about this and then me getting an Oculus, I've noticed a bunch of people getting Oculus. And I think also around that release of it wasn't too long ago either, so it was probably timely. But I guess trying to get people to get into VR, I mean, is Oculus probably the best one for people to look at? I mean, what are some of the things out there that people should be considering?
If you're wanting to get into VR, there's any, it's like how long's a piece of string. There's the best quality ones technically are, your what's it called? Your Pixar. There's one called the Valve Index, which sounds like some sort of stock market term. Today on the Valve Index. There's HTC Vive, and there's another couple. All of those require a gaming PC, and that gaming PC, a VR capable gaming PC is going to set you back a couple of grand. Okay. And those headsets will all set you back at least, I think there's one on special now for about 900.
Right. Wow.
You also need to set those sensors up. So you would have to have a play area, set those sensors up, and you can only use it there. The benefit of using an Oculus Quest is that you don't need a gaming computer. You can just play it through the headset. You can also connect it to a gaming computer if you want even higher fidelity and you want access to PC VR games, which are insanely better. But like you only know they're insanely better once you've seen this, which is insanely better than anything you've ever seen.
Right.
So for $470, the Quest 2 is the best entry point into VR. You can't go wrong. I paid $650 for the Quest 1, like 2 weeks before they announced the Quest 2 for $470, and it's much better. So I was less than pleased with that.
I mean, I'm blown away, because when we're talking about it initially, I was expecting that this shit would be a minimum $800-900 to sort of just get into it, and just thinking this would be something I need to integrate with something else, sort of similar to what you were saying before with the high-end stuff. And, I mean, I can't wrap my head around how the fuck this thing is only worth that amount, considering, like, the only thing I need to do is just hook it up to Wi-Fi and that's it. And it's got a little USB charger. I just charge it up and, it's just the headset, like for whatever reason, the fucking... the grips, the handles or whatever, they just charge themselves, or I don't know what the fuck they do, but they work. I can't even wrap my head around the technology.
They just need batteries. It's crazy. And I'll tell you what, the next time you go on a plane, you're going to want your wife's going to want one, because you can watch movies on the plane, and that, as far as you're concerned, you're in an empty cinema.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
so that's the best entry point, man. The headset you've got, the Quest 2, games aren't that expensive either. I mean, relative to what a PlayStation costs. And honestly, how people were trying to convince their kids to exercise with Nintendo Wii? Well, fuck, the boxing game and even Beat Saber and things like that, the boxing game especially, I thought my girlfriend was going to have a seizure. I was like, fuck, are you all right? Are you okay? Because she's got epilepsy, and she just looked, and she said, no, I'm just extremely unfit.
I think there's a demo version of the boxing one. I haven't checked it out yet. I'll have to have a look. But I've done the demo one of what's that one? That laser, the beat laser,
Beat Saber.
Beat Saber. Yeah, and that's pretty cool. So yeah, I might have to invest in some. I've been a bit of a tight ass. I've just been looking at as many free things as I can, which there's actually quite a bit on there. There's a few shit things on there, but I think overall, like even just you can just buy the headset and then just do the free stuff, and that'll keep you occupied for, I don't know, a few months, I would assume, before having to splurge. And I think the games, like if you want to get a good game, I mean, what, about $40, $50 maybe? If
the most expensive ones are 50.
Yeah. So
but at the moment, so they did Star Wars 1, 2, and 3. You can get all three of those for about $60 or something.
Yeah, right. That's pretty good.
Yeah, and Star Wars nerds love that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because you're basically in the Star Wars universe for the time you're in there. And the amount of times I've gone to lean on tables that aren't there and all that sort of stuff, because you do forget where you're at. And it's incredible, man. I'm really looking forward to working on this with you, because there's a lot of possibilities. And like we've sort of spoken about, once we nut it out, there's going to be the opportunity for any of the listeners, any of the anti-social listeners, my listeners, if they have a VR headset, they can come in and be a part of it. And that's the best part about it is, you and I have come in the metal communities. I'm in the comedy community. There's that brotherhood, sisterhood there. And if you've got fans across the world and we've got all these people across the world in headsets, let's get together and hang out. Why not?
It's going to be so much fun. Hey, it's
going
to be such a spin out to do something different. And I think even just to do something, like even just forgetting about the VR, like momentarily, like just to do a podcast with somebody else and just bounce back and forth. I think that's something that I'm looking forward to, because I've only ever done, I have guests on the podcast, so I bounce back and forth with them, but it's a different person each time. So it's you're always starting from zero each time you go into a chat, unless it's somebody that I've spoken to before. And I think just to build that momentum with somebody else every single time, it's just going to get better and better. And I think that's really exciting. And then just to throw in the curveball of VR on top of it all, it's just going to be like, fuck, man, this is going to be fun.
Well, oddly, it sounds like it's going to be, doing a podcast that way. It seems unnatural because it's such a foreign concept. But like you said, after 30 seconds, you realize, actually, this is much more natural. I'm sitting here across from my friend. I'm not looking at a microphone and my laptop. It's like it's oddly more organic, even though it's not at all. I don't know. It's such a bizarre world. When I tried it, and I just went, this is fantastic. I'm totally on board with this, and we are fucked in 10 years. Skynet is coming.
Oh, man. Well, maybe a good thing to talk about is some of the, I don't know to what extent we want to talk about a lot of this detail, because we're still nutting it all out. But what are you thinking as far as ideas? We've been spitballing some names for the podcast. We've been spitballing some different formats and things to talk about. What's sort of front of mind for you at the moment as far as things that you're probably more keen about to dive into?
Spoken to a few comics, and they all agree with me that the best name is one that I can't use, and I'm very upset about that. Because Avatars is perfect. Now, I understand that's a terrible marketing angle, and also I understand that sounds like a horrible word, and it is, but you can't actually peg me or cancel me on that one, so go fuck yourself. But we can't use it, but I'm very happy that I came up with it, and I did need to share it at some point, so that's that one. I like the idea of some sort of video game reference or something. We talked about, maybe having a basketball sort of angle. I don't know, but I think sort of with any other podcast, I'd want to go into it with, a really well-defined angle. But you and I know each other so well. We both know how to talk and we both know how to listen. And I think part of this should be the discovery of what it's going to be.
I reckon that's cool.
And and because look, the banter will write itself, and we can have guests in that. I've got a lot of funny people that are on board. My friend Cameron McLaren, he's a funny dude over here. He's won Comedian of the Year. He's basically fucking Michael Jackson of comedy and VR. Everybody loves him. Sian Choice, she's always killing it. She's opened up for Ari, Bert, Stanhope. You know, there's a bunch of comics that are doing VR comedy that would love to get into VR and have a chat with us.
Yeah, that's cool. It's exciting. I love the idea of sort of just going through that experience of just going, what the fuck is this? And just having fun with just the novelty, especially in the early stages of the podcast, just trying to, like, at least from my end, I guess the angle that I probably be taking is just like, what the fuck is going on, and just like laughing at everything happening. And I'm sure, like, as you said at the beginning of this chat, sort of having a few things up your sleeve as far as what you can do and different surprises and things like that. I think that'd be fun. And I think people that are new to VR will get a kick out of that as well, because they'll be going through a similar experience as well. I do like the idea of having, not segments, because I think that's too stale. But I like the idea of something that's a reoccurring thing in the format that sort of happens. And I mean, you mentioned before, like, you could have a YouTube video or something like that playing in the background, or maybe it's, I don't know, maybe it's just finding something that we show each other each time we catch up or something, or I don't know, like a quirky fucking topic
Snuff
or something.
films, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Is that the angle you're hoping to take with this?
You sensed me stumbling over the topic. I didn't know how to approach it, but there you go. Thanks for making it easy for me.
Yeah. So, well, that's it, man. With this, it was so hard because once I knew you'd bought the headset, it was kind of a matter of, you know, it's like taking the red pill or the blue pill. I forget which one the one is that shows you all the bad shit.
Yeah.
But it's so overwhelming, and it's so hard to describe the sensation of being in VR and what the possibilities are unless you've been in there.
Yeah.
And the more time I spend in there, the more I realize what can be done in there. It really is going to change things in a big way. Worldwide, it's crazy.
So I think I don't know when this is going to come out. It'll come out in a few weeks' time. So hopefully by that stage we're ready to go, and we've got something
I'd say
recorded.
so.
I reckon I'd
say we should have something on the way.
I think so, and I think what people can do is if VR's not on their horizon immediately, what we'll do, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we can video within VR, and what we'll do is we'll capture it and chuck it up on YouTube, so people can actually watch just the VR experience, even though they're not in there themselves, but be able to watch basically, you know, what a lot of professional podcasters do, and they film themselves in the podcast studio, but we'll be doing it in VR.
Yeah, and the thing is, it'll sound like any other podcast you do. It'll be all the same pro audio equipment.
Yep.
But we can be in a waterfall if we want to, or we can be in a spooky library, or we can be in a studio, or we can be on a beach. So basically, yeah, it's the same quality programming with a cartoon animation to it. So what more do you want, people? I mean, that's bloody fantastic right there. Sex appeal. You got dick jokes. You got the bass coming from Mr. Dowling. It's a winner, mate. It's a winner.
I love the idea. I mean, this might be a bit too much work for you, but I love the idea of every time we do an episode, you set up the space, you tell me where to go. I've got no fucking idea where I'm going to end up. I just appear and I'm already recording, and then I just react to wherever the fuck we are. So yeah, it could be like, you know, in a waterfall or on the side of a cliff, or fucking, you know, in a theater or in a bar or whatever it might be. And like, just a large part of it is just me like just going, where the fuck are we?
It's funny you say that, because I mentioned that we were having a chat and what we were doing to Cameron McLaren, who I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And he's like, why the fuck are you building a studio in there?
Yeah.
He's like, you can do that in real life. Why don't you do it? Like, what are you doing on a mountain or some shit? And I went, that's a very good point. I do like, you know, I've set the studio up. We can use that as a base, or I can just throw you into a fucking haunted cave. Now, logistically, the one thing that is going to make that difficult but also entertaining is we could have other people rock up and just decide that they want to start chatting to us. Now, I'm pretty good at riffing with people, so that could turn out to be quality content, but it's also an autistic person's dream, because you can just mute people and you can just make them disappear. It's fucking great. So if they just give you the shits, you just get rid of them, and they don't bother you anymore.
I love the idea of, especially like to begin with, as we're starting this show, that we let that shit happen, and so it's a case of just half of the entertainment value is us just trying to manage like just all the randomness and the craziness of what VR is, and then over time as we find our groove and at least from my end, I'm building my confidence with that whole VR world. Then we just start becoming ruthless with what we do, and maybe we can set things up where, I don't know, like we can bait these experiences to happen, so we can set people up or whatever, or just do something really random. So if someone does show up out of nowhere, they kind of walk in and go, "What the fuck is going on in here?" You know.
Well, one thing about VR is it's like fucking like Light to the Flies for weirdos. I logged in one day just randomly, and something came up and said so and so wants to invite you to a room, and it must have been somebody I'd friended at a gig. So I thought, okay, I don't know what that means. So I just appear in this room, and it's an empty room, and she just pops up in my face like, "Hey, I didn't think anyone was turning up. Are you going okay? It's really fun, isn't it? I like VR," and it was just so intense that I just pretended to be glitching. Sorry, and then just turn it off. It's too much for me.
that scares the shit out of me.
Yeah, it's crazy when you bomb on stage doing a VR gig. It's the same as doing it's just the same as bombing on a normal gig.
Oh man, it's insane. I mean,
it's just as hurtful.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, guys. I mean, anyone who's listening in, look. I mean, obviously the VR things, like, you know. Definitely recommended, at least from my end, just from the small amount of time that I've had a headset, and I haven't even scraped the surface. I've got no fucking idea what I'm doing, and I haven't even looked. I've only looked at like a handful of things so far, and already I'm like loving it. But I think just anybody, just to begin with, I think what we potentially are going to create and just to put it on YouTube as a visual, I think that'll be entertaining in itself, and it's probably a similar thing to what we were saying before, like, you know how within like, you know, a few seconds or a couple of minutes, you sort of forget that you're even in VR. And I think even just for people who might be watching on a TV or on their laptop or whatever, I think after a while they'll probably not have that disconnect anymore. I think they'll just be used to just seeing us in VR and just be normal. It won't be like, oh, I'm watching this weird VR sort of podcast thing. It'll just be, oh, it's the guys and it is what it is, and it'll be entertaining in itself.
It's the way I look at it with Joe Rogan, how he has Paulie Toon do all the cartoon animated bits.
Oh, yeah.
You can tell instantly who that is, who each character is without the names at the bottom. Well, that's Tom Segura, that's Joey Diaz, that's Red Band. And people become familiar with your cartoon face, and it's very strange. But, yeah, if anyone's interested in checking it out, just... There's a bunch of places you can go to a VR arcade, and that's where I first tried it. But I'm yet to find anybody that doesn't think it's just mind-blowing. And even what it's going to do with regards to film is going to be interesting too. Because there's interactive films and there's VR films where there's a narrative going on and you sort of wander through it as it's happening. So it's insane, man.
I mean, it scares the shit out of me because there was one video, I don't know where it was, but it might have been YouTube or something like that on Oculus, and it was like this little mini tour of the planets. And so I click in, and suddenly I'm just in this little spaceship in space, and the sun's in front of me, and the sun's fucking huge, and I've got this really weird phobia of large things and large things over the top of me. And so VR is like the fucking worst nightmare for this kind of stuff. So I was standing up at the time, and as soon as I came into this space, I like dropped to the floor, like just trying to brace myself. And I was like, oh my God. And I was struggling to look up. And I thought, and I just looked at my headset a little bit to see, like the carpet's here and I can see the kitchen in front of me. Like, what the fuck is going on? And so I had to get a chair and sit on the chair just to brace myself and stable myself while I cruise through the solar system looking at all the planets. And it was just the most fucking, the most surreal thing. So for me, like, to even consider some kind of interactive movie that's potentially going to have all sorts of shit coming at you and people potentially interacting with you and these crazy sort of events, just right in front of you, right in your face and over the top of you and underneath you. It's just, oh man, like I'm sweating thinking about it.
It's very overwhelming, and I don't understand how people can stay in there for hours. I mean, I've spent 2 hours in there and I need to get out. It's too overwhelming.
Yeah, it's. I think the longest I've been in there is it'd have to be probably an hour. And after I take the headset off, I'm sort of like, I've got to adjust. Like it's actually going to take me a moment to adjust back to real life. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been good though. Like, it's one of those things that I just stumbled across by accident. And it's kept me sane during COVID. I've had, 2 surgeries. I've had the feet fucked, everyone's broke, everyone's over it. And it's been a rough year. And I tell you what, it's definitely kept us sharp. And it's the comedians that are doing it here have loved it. And yeah, so we're kicking off our show this week, so it'll be well and truly running by then. So it's my Friday night. Well, I say Friday night. It's Friday night Central in the US, which is what I've been accustomed to running by. So it's Saturdays here at about 11 a.m. So East Coast to be about 2 in the afternoon, and it's the best comics in WA. Anyone from the UK that's trapped here, and guys from the US as well. And you can come in if you've got a headset, or you can just download Alt Space VR. And you can go in on a laptop and check it out too.
That's so cool. Is there a lot of Aussie comedians? Obviously, there's a bit of a community over there in Perth that sort of know about it. But do you? I mean, obviously, you said before, like the majority of them are Americans. But are you noticing that there's more Aussies?
We're trying to find them. If anyone's listening, fucking hit me up.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a bit of quality control. That's one thing that is hilarious on there. It's worth buying the headset just to log into Old Space and go into the random sort of variety night open mics, because it's like it's like a cartoon Napoleon Dynamite or something. You just get somebody get up and tell a knock joke and run off the stage awkwardly, and then somebody will get up and sing some song by Cher, but they're clearly not all there, and it's just like, what the fuck is happening? It's so entertaining for all the wrong reasons. And my show is nothing like that, but they're both entertaining. Oh, wow. Just come to mine first. Go to that one after.
That's right. Yeah, set the bar first. Oh man, yeah. The possibilities are endless with this kind of stuff. I mean, it's just. I mean, I know you've been thinking about this for quite some time, and I've sort of come into the piece more recently, but just from just a small amount that I've experienced, it's just just the world's just opening up. So it's just yeah, man, I'm pumped. I'm pumped to do something silly and a bit of fun, and I think a lot of it's to begin with, at least following your lead and just seeing what the fuck is in your head and what you're working on. Because I reckon it'll be pretty entertaining for people to watch.
Absolutely, and if you want to follow along, so Upload Comedy Club is the name of the VR club that I'm running. There's a Facebook and there'll be an Instagram by the time this comes out, and that's where there'll be anything regarding the VR comedy shows. I'll obviously be sharing anything regarding our VR podcast on there and on my socials, which is Old Mate Douglas, so Hayden Douglas. Oh, we should probably acknowledge the fact that I've got a different name than the last time I was on here too.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that. I forgot all about it. I was gonna mention it at the start. So I guess a bit of a name change since the last time you were on the potty. So
Well, it was Hayden Douglas, and then I went to Douglas, and then I was working at a high school.
Yeah.
And it was the most horrible place on earth. Shout out to Butler College, WA. And they were just horrendous people, and I got injured at work. They didn't give a fuck. It was just a really bad time. And then they were giving me a hard time about doing comedy because I was working for the government or whatever at the time. And so I just went, well, I'm not stopping comedy. I'm just going to have to change it. And then unfortunately I got on a bunch of cool podcasts and shit under this fucking other name. And then I just went, I don't care about my job. I care about comedy. And so fuck it, Hayden Douglas. So Anyone who's been looking for Douglas Harvey, I apologise. He's MIA. He's dead now. He's dead to me.
The alter ego. I'll link everyone to the last chat so they don't have to try and stress about remembering two different names. They can just click through and listen to the last one. Yeah, and
like the real Slim Haiti. You don't know which one's going to stand up.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, maybe he can make an appearance in this new podcast we're going to be doing.
Oh man, the good thing is, I'm going to start doing stand up as other people in character. It's just like, why not? Got my old man Grandpa Jack character that I do on Instagram. I'm going to start doing some bits with him. He's a naughty man. Got problems.
Oh, before we wrap it up, the other thing, the avatars. So my avatar, which I quickly slapped together before sort of jumping into one of the rooms with you, I kind of look like a chick with a beard, which really, I guess that's kind of reality. So it's not not too far away from real life. But you were toying around with some of the other avatars, because I know there's not a lot of flexibility with the ones that we were originally looking at, the sort of preset default stuff. But
I know where you're going.
But you had a couple of experiments with some other ones there, and there was one of yourself where you had a slightly inflated noggin. Your skull was a bit...
Yeah, there's a couple of... It's the uncanny valley, my friend, and that was more of an uncanny. I don't know what that was. There was a pothole or something. But some of these programs aren't quite there yet, and that one tries to overlay your face, a picture of your real face, over an avatar framework, and the results are terrifying. I'll send you a couple of them, because there's a few. I did quite the photo shoot when I realized how bad they were. And if anyone wants to enjoy those, they can. But yeah, the technology isn't there yet.
Yeah,
you can't do a Kanye and build your wife, a dead relative. It's not. You're not going to be able to do that from home.
I'll grab those photos and I'll chuck them in the show notes so people can have a squiz. They can click through and have a look at the pictures. But as I said to you, that larger than life photo where you had the bulging noggin is definitely a water on the brain scenario there. There was definitely a medical issue that appeared to be happening with your head. But
I looked like the people they were experimenting on in that that movie Overlord. Did you see that?
No, I haven't seen that. No.
Where the Nazis were doing experiments on people trying to turn them into zombies. It kind of looks like halfway through the process.
Oh well, I was thinking like Roswell or something like that, or what was the? Actually, no, it was a Megadeth video clip for Hangar 18, and they shoved like this like steel rod into the side of the head of the alien on the table, and he's squirming around. And when I saw your inflated face, I thought, that you look like that little alien in Hangar 18. So there you go. So
to be fair, I probably weighed about 40 kilos more the last time we spoke, so my face wasn't far off that.
Before and after.
Yeah, my face goes up and down in inflation, but my ego is stable.
Well, there you go.
That's good.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
All right,
underpaid, underappreciated, but I'm okay with it, and that's the final message for today.
Love it. On that note, well, mate, we've got a lot of brainstorming to do. I think by the time this comes out, we'll have something up and running. So I reckon what I'll get people to do is have a look in the description of this podcast. There'll be some links in there, so I'll link through to whatever the fuck we come up with, and potentially I'll plug in the outro of this episode, whatever it's called, and give some details of how to find us. But hopefully we'll have something. I mean, whether it's good or not to begin with, well, it's subjective as always. But it'll
don't you worry about it.
I mean, I was going to say safe and capable hands, but I'm at least in your capable hands.
Well, we're in hands. I don't know.
Yeah,
I've got hands. I've got an infected hand too. I didn't mention that, so
really?
you don't want to be in my hands. Yeah, dude, everything's going wrong.
Do I dare to ask what happened to your hand?
Oh yeah, I had a fucking wart on it, and I didn't want it there, so I cut it out myself. And you shouldn't do that, kids.
No.
Yeah, this is this is the problem, man. Well, look, thank you so much for having me on. I'll chat next time I see you. I'll be looking at your sexually ambiguous cartoon face.
Alrighty, folks. Now, if you don't own a VR headset, definitely look one up. Like consider it. I got that Oculus Quest 2 headset, and it is just like as soon as I put it on, I turned it on, I just went, the world's changed forever. Like this is just a game changer. Absolutely insane. So not only, you can go to these like comedy shows in these virtual rooms, but there's so many amazing games to play. It's just this another world. It's just amazing. So definitely go and check all this out. If you're new to it all, you can go to the Old Space website and search for the Upload Comedy Club VR room. And I'll have links in the show notes, of course, over at andysocial.net and andydowling.net. And wherever you listen to this through right now, just click through in the description and I'll have a bunch of links to Hayden, his comedy, his music, and of course, Upload Comedy Club VR. Just amazing stuff. And Hayden's an absolute legend. And I can't wait to get this all happening, to do this podcast with him. It's going to happen at some point in time. We've just been so busy between him doing his Upload Comedy Club, me doing Andy Social, also with Lord doing Undercovers Volume 1, which might be out this Friday, possibly. I'm just trying to think of when I'm recording this. Yes, it's out this Friday. So you can go to lordofficial.bandcamp.com and pre-order one of the last CD copies, because at the time of recording this, these CDs are almost sold out. 500, hand-numbered, limited edition, and definitely get amongst it if you haven't already. If you've been sitting on that fence, jump off that fence and go and order a copy before they're gone. So yes, we've all been busy, but we're going to get this podcast happening sometime soon. So there you go. Patreon.com/Andy Dowling. Please consider supporting $1 a month, dirt cheap, set and forget. You won't even notice it. That is my goal for this year, is to get as many $1 supporters as possible. Now, if you want access to additional things such as the exclusive Patreon podcast episode each week, a bunch of free goodies, free merch, all that sort of stuff, then there are additional tiers there that you can support me and the podcast and get access to those goodies as well. But really, if I got all of you guys that listen to this podcast each and every week, all on that $1 tier, oh man, life would be good. And I tell you what, just the support I've had so far has been absolutely incredible. It's the reason why Andy Social exists this year. It's the ultimate motivator and accountability piece for me to keep going. And from a financial point of view, it takes so much pressure off my shoulders when it comes to the rolling costs of running a podcast, hosting, production, gear, getting around town. There's just all these costs that sort of add up and just continue to sort of build each and every year of running a podcast. So the pressure taken off by the Patreon community has just been, oh man, it's been so good. So good. And it just helps me focus on having great chats like this one with Hayden as well. So there you go. Now, next episode, I don't know. I've got no idea. I've been so run off the rails with Undercovers, with the new Lord release, that I really haven't planned this out as well as I thought. I've got a bunch of people recorded, but I need to sit down and clean them all up, and not them personally, but the recordings, you know what I mean, and then work out what order I'm going to put them all out. So there'll be somebody new next week. So stay tuned. So until then, thank you so much for supporting. Take care and ta-ta. Larry.